I bought How to Kill Your Family earlier this year after seeing it everywhere, and I've heard it's similar to My Sister the Serial Killer, which I've also recently picked up. So I thought it would be a good, easy read between some lengthier books on my TBR to pick up. And here's my quick review of what I thought of it. Um, Overall, I think it's a good, easy read. I'd recommend it if you need something, but we'll get into the reasons why it might not be for some people. Quickly going through the blurb for anyone who's not already familiar for How to Kill Your Family, as this review is going to be spoiler free. I have killed several people, some brutally, others calmly, and yet I currently languish in jail for a murder I did not commit. When I think about what I actually did, I feel somewhat sad that nobody would ever know about the complex operation that I undertook. Getting away with it is highly preferable, of course, but perhaps when I'm long gone, someone will open an old safe and find this confession. The public would reel. After all, almost nobody else in the world can possibly understand how someone, by the tender age of 28, can have calmly killed 6 members of her family, and then happily got on with the rest of her life, never to regret a thing. When Grace Bernard discovers her absentee millionaire father has rejected her dying mother's pleas for help, she vows revenge and sets about to kill every member of his family. Readers have a front row seat as Grace picks off the family one by one, and the result is as gruesome as it is entertaining in this wickedly dark romp about class, family, love, and murder. But then Grace is imprisoned for a murder she didn't commit. So, yeah, quick and to the point blurb. I do think it's very much what happens in the book. It's not falsely advertising as a blurb. But Grace Bernard is a person who is so fully filled with hate towards anything and anyone that her descent into becoming killer isn't a shock, even if you hadn't read the title and blurb. Whilst her hate is, for a better word, productively targeted towards her biological father and his family, Grace also seems to despise everyone around her. Even the family and best friend that took her in gets heavily judged by our main character, so she's just not a people person. Whilst the story is almost narcissistically focused on Grace, we mostly see other characters with her views laced on top of them. However, her father and his family are egregiously dislikable, or at least most of them are, and by the end of the story, this comes down to an almost nature versus nurture debate. Whilst Grace has never been in contact or been brought up by her family, and some of the other family members have purposely distanced themselves from the family, there's a strong sense that they all still share similar tendencies of being bad people, which is interesting to read, especially as that's not the main topic of the book. Obviously, the main character is Grace, is a serial killer, and the point is that you're meant to dislike both her and the victims because that's why she's killing them, because they're dislikable people. However, I do know some readers do need a person to root for, and How to Kill Your Family doesn't have this, and it's very much like a journal slash ramble from our main character instead. I didn't mind this, but I know others will, so do bear this in mind if you do want to read this book. The style of this book is Grace writing her true memoirs whilst in prison for the murder she didn't commit, about the murder she actually did. Overall, I kind of glazed over the fact that I don't believe she'd be able to hide her writing in prison from everyone, and people would definitely know what she was doing, but whatever. But for a lot of the book, we do get to the point of the planning and the execution, no pun intended, of the murders. But for other parts of the books, Grace is clearly going a bit stir crazy in prison, and it rambles onto tangents that just don't add much to the story. So if you're someone who kind of dislikes filler in their books, it might not be for you. The book itself borders on contemporary with a little hint of thriller. Obviously, a topic of serial killer and murders does have that thriller element to it. However, I would classify it as mostly a contemporary read, mostly based on the humour and the setup of the story. Contemporary readers will likely be able to pick this up and enjoy it much more than a thriller reader, as it doesn't have a huge amount of the tension and mystery of the murders throughout that I know thriller readers do love. As a whole, the ending of the book is fairly anticlimactic, and without trying to have too many spoilers, it basically brings in another character as shock value without it really paying off. It reads a little bit like a cliffhanger in that you kind of want to Google what the hell just happened, but for a book that is almost definitely not going to have enough for a sequel, it overall just feels very disappointing at the end, although I did enjoy reading it up until that moment. Overall, I enjoyed reading How to Kill Your Family as a break between big fantasy epics, and I think if anyone else is doing similar to me, where they need like a contemporary read that doesn't need a lot of thinking about, then this is probably a good book for you. If you want a book that actually you really want to kind of think about it with a bit of a thriller mystery edge, this probably isn't for you, and I personally would not pick up this book again. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know if you've read it and what you thought of it, and if it was similar to me or if you thought different. And also, let's talk spoilers in a different place, because there's some things I still do not get at the end, but we'll see. Thank you for watching this little video, and I hope to see you again soon.